Hi, welcome to the Press Pass. I'm Dana Lee.
And I'm Jacob Mummert.
This week on Press Pass, get your Butler sports update, take a drive with men's golfer Spencer Fairbanks in Driving with Dogs, and stick around for an interview with Director of Men's Basketball Operations, Brandon Crone. All these things coming up next.
But first, find out why season high in passing yards from Butler quarterback Will Marty wasn't enough for the win this past weekend. The Bulldogs took on Pioneer Football League standout San Diego. Let's take a look at some highlights from Saturday's game.
Butler had a rough outing at home on Saturday, losing to San Diego 42-13. Despite the big loss, the Bulldogs had some impressive plays on defense. Redshirt junior Luke Sinnott forced a fumble at the goal line, ending in a touchback for Butler in the second quarter. Butler forced another fumble in the third quarter when redshirt senior Mark Gear stripped and recovered the football. Butler scored all their points in the second half, first by a 61-yard touchdown reception from redshirt senior Will Marty to redshirt junior Stephen Dennis. A rare Bevelheimer miss left the Bulldogs with just 6 points. The final touchdown came from a 26-yard reception for Marty to senior Pace Temple. The Bulldogs moved to 1-3 in conference play and are back in action this Saturday when they host the Dayton Flyers. For the Press Pass, I'm Jacob Mummert.
If you can believe it, basketball season is almost here. Jacob, I know you've had this date circled in your calendar for a while, but if you're like the rest of us, the countdown starts now because the first exhibition game of the season is just 4 days away. Despite losing seniors Tyler Weidman and Keelan Martin to graduation, team expectations remain the same. Last season, the team fell short of a Sweet 16 run, losing to Purdue by 3. The team says they're moving forward.
We're all fairly confident in ourselves and how we can do this season. We have a lot of potential with the returners, like you said. It's always tough in the Big East. We're going to have to fight our way through it and to see what we can get.
A key part to Butler's success, junior point guard Kamar Baldwin, who averaged over 15 points last season.
Expectation is just give it our all. Whether that's effort or being there for a teammate.
He's a junior now. He's a third-year player in the program. I would say generally, guys are talking because they don't know or they don't care. And obviously, where he is now, he knows, and he's got a high care level, so it's good to hear him out there a lot more.
Sports Illustrated recently predicted Butler to finish 5th in the Big East. But for now, that's still months away.
So, Danny, you were there. What was the atmosphere like?
You know, one thing that both Coach Jordan and the players were mentioning was a factor of consistency that wasn't there in Coach Jordan's first year. He was saying that in practice the other day, he doesn't have to teach them the same drills the way they did last year. I think that sense of consistency is going to factor into and help them be more successful on the court this season.
Great. I know we're all looking forward to the start of the season. Now let's shift gears here. Press Pass reporter Sam Pfeiffer caught up with men's golfer Spencer Fairbanks in this week's edition of Driving with Dogs.
Welcome to another episode of Dog Talk. I'm Sam Pfeiffer, and this week I will be joined by men's golfer Spencer Fairbanks. Spencer, how you doing?
Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too. Why did you choose to come to Butler?
Honestly, liked the campus. Didn't really even want to play golf in college, but I tried out, made it. But the campus and location about an hour and a half from my house, so
That's not bad.
yeah, easy drive.
So you had no intentions of playing golf. What made you want to play then in college?
It's D1, so I was like, I'll give it a shot. It'd be kind of cool. And so, made a team.
How is the season going so far? How's it been for you?
Season's going good. Playing pretty bad, but team's playing pretty good, so that's always a plus. A lot better than last year.
What's your best round so far?
So far this year, I've shot 73 in a qualifier, but tournament-wise, 74.
74, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not awful.
It's a lot better than I would do. You see me play.
Yeah.
Not that great. What tournament was that in that you shot the 73 to qualify?
It would have been for our home tournament.
Okay, the recent one?
Yep, on our island.
What is your dream course that you want to play on? Like, what is the number one course that you want to play on?
Augusta National.
Augusta National?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where the Masters is. Georgia.
Yeah.
It's a prime piece of real estate. That's what we call it in the business. Yeah. It's a prime piece of real estate.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I'd say that you could definitely.
It's gorgeous.
How would you play there? I mean, it was pretty hard.
Yeah, I'd probably play off. But
Probably shoot at 150.
It'd be a good experience.
That'd definitely be cool just to play there. I mean, there's so much history there.
Yeah, there is.
What do you want to be, or what do you want to do out of college? Like, what's the dream out of college?
Definitely not golf. The dream would honestly be just music and rapping. That is the dream right now, dude. That would be so fun.
Rapping?
Yeah.
Do you have a rapper name?
Mucho Bouncy.
Mucho
Yeah.
Bouncy?
Yeah, that's kind of what they call me on the streets.
How'd you come up with Mucho Bouncy?
One day in high school, I don't know, it just came to me. I just kind of spitting some bars, and I just said it, and I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, I liked it.
Are you gonna blow up?
I don't know, I'm hoping to.
Hoping to blow up?
That'd be the
Okay.
dream. That'd be the dream.
That'd be pretty sweet to just blow up. Get like a big deal out of college.
Post
Mucho
Malone,
Bouncy.
dude. Holy cow.
Right. Like Childish Gambino it kind of
Exactly,
thing. Drop a few
exactly.
mixtapes here and there and then blow up. So the dream is to become a rapper, do some music.
Correct.
Can
That's the
you
dream.
can you drop a few bars for me right now? Can you freestyle?
I could probably freestyle a little bit. Yeah, you want me to?
Yeah. You freestyle?
Alright, do we need a beat or just want me to freestyle?
Just go.
Alright. I'm pretty good at golf. That's why I'm in college. But if this career takes off, forget about that knowledge.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's more.
All right.
Getting chauffeured around town like I'm Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
He interviewing me like I'm Michael Joseph Jackson. Hey, that's just a little taste.
That was it. That was
Just a
good.
little
That was
taste.
good. I'm
Just
a
a little
fan.
taste.
I'm a fan. Mucho Bouncy.
Hell yeah.
Who would you say your favorite rapper is besides yourself?
Mac Miller, R.I.P.
Mac,
but
R.I.P. Mac.
He had some heat.
He did have some heat.
He had
What,
some heat.
what would you say that your favorite album of his was?
I'm not an album guy.
Not
a
an
big
album guy? Okay.
Not a big album guy, but my favorite song by Mac was definitely Weekend.
Oh, with Miguel?
Exactly.
That's a great song.
Song comes on, I'm feeling
Yeah,
it.
that
Holy
Mucho
cow.
Bouncy comes out when that
That's
song
I
comes
mean,
on.
I just start moving a little bit. And
Ooh.
It's good stuff.
Need some dance moves?
Just start moving a little bit.
Just start moving?
Gosh.
Ooh, can't help yourself? Spencer, it's been a pleasure.
Good
All
meeting
right,
you.
Good meeting you.
Welcome back to the studio. You're joining us now for Dog Talk, our weekly segment where, let's face it, we have opinions about sports too. Sam and Sam, thanks so much for being here. The men's and women's soccer teams have been a consistent topic on this segment, with both of their regular seasons coming to a close. Which players have stood out? For the women's team, who has to play well in order to guarantee a deep postseason run? Sam Barish, I'll start with you first.
Well, for me, it's hard not to pick freshman forward Anya Savage. I mean, she's a freshman, and yet she's led the team in both goals with 7 goals and points with 17 points. Her debut game against Kent State, she put 2 goals in and was named Big East Player of the Week. I'm really excited to see what she has to offer this postseason after a phenomenal freshman year, but then also going forward beyond that, just because we have all these great seniors that are going to move on, and she's really going to get to move into a leadership position.
For me, I'm going to have to go with Hannah Ludke. I think in order to have a good team and to win games, you have to have good goaltending. And I think her and Leonie Duga do an excellent job at that. Ludke has played 17 games and has 12 shutouts out of those 17 games, allowing only .59 goals against average, which is incredible. So I think in order to make a far run in the playoffs, they have to have good goaltending, and I think they have the goaltenders right for the job.
Anya Savage and Hannah Lidke, both impact players for the women's team. I want to shift our conversation towards the men's team. They're currently in 7th place, 1 point behind Xavier. Of course, this could all change later tonight as both teams play. If you're Coach Snape and the team is on this postseason bubble, who's the guy you're going to be looking towards to show up in the big, crucial games?
I'm going to go for another freshman here. Not quite as obvious of a pick in my opinion, but middle fielder Jack Haywood. He leads all freshmen in points with 5. And in addition, he has the second total most assists on the team with 3. Like I said, he's not necessarily the biggest, most impact player. He didn't play in the IU game, but he did just score his first goal a few games ago against Southern Illinois University. And I think that's really going to mean he's starting to loosen up and feel more confident on the field.
Sam, I want to challenge you just a little bit because I think you have presented an interesting choice on a team with veterans like Joe Molden. Brandon Gould is in his 2nd year now. What is it about Jack as a freshman that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, like I said, he just scored his first goal recently, and I think that's just going to mean he's looser and more confident on the field. And I think these games against some more high-intensity opponents where he realizes their season's on the line are just going to raise his confidence even more and make him feel looser and more able to offer a lot more to the Dogs end of season push. And I really think he's going to be a surprise valuable asset coming forward.
I am going to pick one of the obvious picks here with Brandon Gould. He transferred over from SMU last year and didn't have the red shirt, so he started playing immediately with the Dogs, and he had an incredible season. Was one of the top goal scorers in the team, had probably the most points on the team. And this year he kept the ball rolling. He has the most points on the team. He has 6 goals and 3 assists. His 6 goals are tied for second in the Big East. So I think going forward, with him being so hot and putting up goals and numbers for the team, I think that if he keeps that going, they will be very hard to stop.
Moving outdoors to indoors, Butler basketball tips off in just 4 days with our opening exhibition against Tiffin University. It's still early, but what non-conference games stand out as key points for the Bulldogs early on? In fairness, Sam, we'll start with you.
I think that the Crossroads Classic will be huge for the Bulldogs. They play against IU this year. The Bulldogs have met up with the Hoosiers 28 times so far, and the Bulldogs do not have a very favorable record against them. They're 7-21. So I think going up against this bigger and stronger, more physical IU team will really get the Dogs prepared for the season. I know personally I'm really looking forward to the matchup between Kamar Baldwin and Romeo Langford. Langford's the 5-star recruit. He's Mr. Indiana Basketball Gatorade Player of the Year. So I think that matchup will be very key to see how Kamar will do for conference play.
For me personally, I'm excited for the Butler preseason tournament they have, the Battle for Atlantis. It's a big national spotlight for them, plus the AP Top 25 poll did just drop. Virginia, who's a possible second-round match for them, they're ranked number 5. And Butler has a first-round matchup against Dayton, who is always making noise in the NCAA tournament at the end of the year. Florida, who we already do have a preseason game against, is in this tournament as well, so we could potentially have 2 preseason games against Florida this year. Wisconsin, who received a lot of votes in the top in the AP vote, is also in this tournament. So I definitely think this preseason tournament, Battle for Atlantis, is going to offer a lot of good exposure to the entire team, especially before Jordan Tucker is able to start playing for Butler. So it allows them to really get some good competition in.
Finally, moving away from Butler sports and returning to a debate we actually started earlier this week. Baseball World Series. Last night, the Red Sox topped the Dodgers 8-4 in Game 1. Do those results change your pick? Sam, I know as a diehard San Francisco Giants fan, you were getting a little nervous last night.
Yeah, there was moments of nerves, but I mean, all bias aside, I still will have to stick with my decision. I do think the Red Sox should easily win this series in probably 5 games, give or take. I mean, they won 108 games. They beat 2 100-win teams to get to the World Series. The biggest question mark I had for them coming in was if David Price would look like David Price has looked in past postseasons, which was unimpressive. But he has looked very impressive this postseason, and they've had great depth at the pitching position, and their offense is there to support it too.
Yeah, I completely agree with Sam here. I think that the Boston Red Sox are going to sweep the Dodgers.
I'm going to slow you down. Sweep the Dodgers. Stand by it.
Yes. Like Sam just said, the Red Sox probably beat the 2 best teams in baseball in the Yankees and the Astros, and I just don't think that they came all this way to lose to the Dodgers. The Dodgers have, what comes to mind as I'm a big baseball fan, the Dodgers have one player, Clayton Kershaw, and he had a very big loss yesterday. He put up 8 runs on him. So I just think with the hot bats and Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr. and JD Martinez, I think that the Red Sox just can't be stopped if they keep the bats hot.
All right, that wraps up Dog Talk. Sam and Sam, thank you for your insight as always. Ever wonder what goes into setting up for a sporting event at Hinkle Fieldhouse? Press Pass reporter Chris Brown and producer Jacob Mummert went to find out.
Fans recognize Hinkle as it looks right before tip-off, but do spectators realize all the work and hours that go into getting the iconic Fieldhouse game ready? Megan Reinhardt is Assistant Director of Internal Operations. Her work begins several hours before fans arrive.
I show up about 4 hours ahead of the game time. I'm setting up the ball carts, the nets, the officials' chair, putting out timing sheets on the locker room doors, welcoming the visiting teams.
Reinhardt is constantly busy, even moments before the game starts.
I've gotten, 2 or 3 phone calls asking, hey, where do I put this person? So-and-so is here. How can I, I'm trying to put out a bunch of different fires all at the same time.
There's never a pause in the action.
Hang on, let me take this really quick. Hey.
Reinhardt says that preparation is key in her position, but you still have to be able to adjust on the fly.
In events, especially event management, you can expect that you have everything covered and there's one little detail that you forgot. So the most important part about game day operations is being able to think on your feet.
Reporting for the Press Pass, I'm Chris Brown.
One thing you will notice about Hinkle is they actually have metal detectors, which I don't believe those were there when you and Chris went on reported on the story.
Right, so that's definitely a new feature this year for Butler safety measures, and they're actually looking to implement it across campus, but they'll begin with it at Hinkle. BUPD recommends that fans arrive early so they can get through the lines and not to miss any of the action.
So that will be 4 days from now, the men's exhibition game against Tiffin. Our interview this week is with Director of Basketball Operations, Brandon Crone. Crone graduated from Butler in 2007 as a 4-year letter winner and captain of the men's basketball team. As a player, Crone was part of 78 wins and 2 NCAA tournament berths, including a trip to the Sweet 16 his senior year.
After graduating, Crone spent 3 years playing professionally in Europe before returning to the U.S. to pursue coaching. After serving on the coaching staff at Nova Southeastern in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Crone joined the Butler coaching staff in 2014. Now joining us in studio is Brandon Crone with Press Pass reporter Josh Molnix. Josh?
Thanks, Dana and Jacob. And Coach, thanks so much for joining the show.
I appreciate you having me.
So, Director of Basketball Operations, DOBO, it's one of those phrases we hear a lot in basketball, but my guess is that not everybody really knows what that means. So for you as the DOBO of Butler men's basketball, what does that title mean for you?
Means you wear a lot of hats. As kind of the behind-the-scenes guy. You're doing the traveling. I'm doing the scheduling for the team. Not only classes, academic on campus, but the actual game scheduling. A big hand in that. So it's kind of the liaison between a lot of departments on campus to really help our student athletes be the best they can be.
Are you involved in? How much input do you have in, there's a lot to juggle with scheduling between, when Hinkle is available, when Fox Sports can actually put the game up. Are you involved in a lot of that, or are you more involved with just the logistics of putting the players' schedules together once that schedule is there?
No, I'm involved in both. Practice scheduling of getting Hinkle. Obviously, you've got to kind of work with women's basketball, volleyball, and a number of other events that want to be in Hinkle. But in terms of the actual game schedule, getting them, we don't really have much say with TV anymore. In terms of we used to play a lot of 2 p.m. games, and now you'll see them later just based on kind of TV. So we have a little bit of control on that, but we do control our schedule in the non-conference and who we're picking to play.
So we hear a lot about how beneficial it is for players to be familiar with each other, but I think one of the things that's sort of underestimated is just a coaching staff being familiar with one another. And this being only the second season that this coaching staff is led by Laval Jordan, how important is it for a coaching staff to also be familiar with each other, have a year or so, a couple of years of experience under your belt, just like it's helpful for players?
I think it's crucial. I think the chemistry of the staff before, and then with Coach Jordan coming back, he was an assistant when I played here, so the chemistry him and I had was great right away because the relationship is already there. But getting everyone involved to what their strengths are, as assistant coaches, as Will Vergolo, our video analyst, what his strengths are in video and what he can bring to the table. I think similar to what Coach Jordan was saying on media day, where our players are now getting comfortable. I think we're getting comfortable. We know kind of who's bringing what to the table, and how we can help kind of in what areas as well.
So, so it's interesting. Coach Jordan has played here. He's been an assistant coach here, and now he's the head coach here. And similarly, you were also a player in this program. How valuable do you think it is for, and what kind of insight can you bring to a player that's in the program now that maybe a coach that hasn't played in this program can't?
Well, I think, the Butler way hasn't changed. You hear it nonstop, you hear the values nonstop, but to be able to come in here, live it, understand it, know what goes behind it, the professors, the staff outside that put on the games, kind of all across the board, everyone lives it here. So, you come in hearing it and you hear words, but I think having Coach Jordan and myself and Emerson Campen, who's on staff, who played here, are able to kind of really help them. What does accountability mean? What does thankfulness mean? And try to, go through the lessons that we learned and give that on. I think it's valuable to the guys.
So you spent quite a bit of time at this point with this version of Butler men's basketball, Team 121. We're just a couple days away from exhibition games, only a couple weeks from the start of the season. What excites you the most about this team now that you've been around them for a while?
Yeah, 2 words I'd say is competitive, and then their work ethic. This team, I've been around a lot of teams as a player or a coach, but I honestly have not seen a team practice and compete every single day as hard as this team has. And some of that we're going to need, right? We're undersized in some areas. We have, our guards are a little bit smaller compared to across our league, but they bring it every single day, and they want to compete and they want to win, and I think that's what's really going to set this team apart.
It's a very appropriate narrative for a Butler team. You've mentioned the Butler way. It just sort of fits. So this is a team, like you mentioned. It's a new team. There's a lot of some turnover. There's players stepping into bigger roles, different roles, whether it's Kumar being really the first guy on the scouting report this year, with Keelan being gone in terms of scoring. And then you've got bench players who will probably play more minutes, will be asked to be a little bit more productive. At this point, what roles have you seen, what steps have you seen players take towards sort of filling those roles, becoming these new players for this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of really evaluate that at this point. I think Sunday will be a great measuring stick when you actually get to go against someone else, because, in practice you're trying to figure out, was that bad defense or really good offense,
right.
And you don't really know. So I think time will tell with that. But what I will say is, again, they're competing. And so I think anytime you compete and you want to get better, like, they're going to be ready to step into those roles. But, Keelan and Tyler Wyman both, 4-year start, not 4-year starters, but 4-year guys that made an impact on this program. So to kind of fill their shoes is going to be a challenge.
And finally, you mentioned that Tiffin, the first exhibition game. What is the focus of an exhibition game from a coaching staff standpoint? Obviously, just for psyche, it's nice to get a win the first time you're on the court as a team with the scoreboard up, but it's not always the main focus. That's why it's an exhibition game. So for a coaching staff, when you're stepping into that kind of game, what are you looking for? What do you want to get out of those kind of games?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, one, you kind of want to get a routine. You talk to your players. You want them to have a game day routine. So by doing 2 exhibitions, they can kind of get a different routine. We kind of do the timing differently, so they get to see what a morning game would look like for their pregame, 2 o'clock, and versus an evening game and what that's different. So you want them to get a routine. You want them to get comfortable in front of fans.
Right.
I mean, we're in the Big East, and you play in front of a lot of people. So to kind of get that practice under your belt. And then the other thing is just scouting, kind of get them to see what can they pick up tendencies of other teams. Can you coach them to scouting? So I think that's a really good practice measure for them too.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show today. Good luck to you and the rest of the team as you move forward in this season.
Appreciate it.
Dana, Jacob, back to you.
That's all the time we have for this week. Tune in next week for an interview with women's basketball head coach Kurt Godlewski.
This has been the Press Pass. We have our credentials, and now you have yours.